passion igniting the light through highs and lows. We'll stand as one, a legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we roar, together we grow. Detroit Lions will rise, with a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our road. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. So let's lift our voices, let's turn it up loud. For the love of the Lions, we'll always be proud.
All right. Good morning. It's the Rise and Grind Morning Show. I'm your host, Will Rock, and we are late today. I apologize. Eric Rintamaki just surprised me with a call. He's trying to get on the show this morning. His appointment was pushed back, so we're going to try to make that happen. I'm trying to make it happen right now, but it's going to be a minute. So I want to get through some of the opening dialogue here, and let me switch gears so I can get us into a segment that will allow me to work behind the scenes and get a duo scene set up, because I do not have one ready this morning. So how's everybody doing today? Are you feeling a little bit better today? That's the question. Is some of the fogginess kind of wearing off, if you will? Such a highlight to our week is beating the Cowboys, but such a downer when we lose such an important piece. And as you guys saw last night, I posted another major blow to the Detroit Lions. Kyle Pecco has been lost for the season with a torn pec. Today's lineup. Is Aiden okay? Surgery update. Kyle Pecco, Lions lose another one. Lions standing down on finding a replacement. Interesting conversation by Dan Campbell. And Super Bowl hype. Is it over, or is it still Super Bowl or bust? And get this. Somebody wants Levi Onwuzurike. That's right. There's some news popping that they want to poach Levi. And Dan Patrick last night or yesterday, a little bit of a review for the Lions. And we're going to bring that in and talk about what Dan Patrick had to say. All that and more today on the Rise and Grind Morning Show. We'll be right back here after an ad from our sponsor.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering Uper Lights, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from uperlights.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for Uper Lights, with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit uperlights.com for all your UV flashlight needs, with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from uperlights.com.
All right, and we're back. So let's get into it a little bit here. First part of my notes today was to talk about Dan Campbell's press conference. So maybe this is a good opportunity for us to start with that, because I want to bring in the actual video from Dan Campbell and listen to what he had to say. I think it's important that we identify, what are Dan Campbell's plans? What is he talking about? And I'm going to give you my take on it. Doesn't mean that it's right, but we're going to talk about it this morning. So let me get Dan Campbell queued up here. 1 second here. Come on now. It's cold today. It is supposed to get down into the 30s over the next couple of nights, man. It's going to be chilly. They're talking about bring your flowers in, and I'm like, I don't care. Like it's too late in the season for me to care about flowers right now. Not happening. Not happening. All right, let's get Dan Campbell in here. Media session from yesterday. So his press conference from yesterday, I want to bring that in and have a conversation about it, as we always like to do here on the Rise and Grind Morning Show. What is Dan Campbell up to today? I guess in this case, yesterday.
Let me just start here. You know, I know that, you know, there was an update with Hutch and his surgery. Surgery went great, which is all good news. You know, I kind of mentioned this yesterday, but, you know, man, Hutch is a captain for us, highly productive player, great teammate, does everything right, and was having one hell of a game, one hell of a season. And so, look, that it hurts. It hurts to lose somebody like him, not only the player, but the person that's in that locker room, the leader that he is. You know, but that being said, listen, we move forward. And let me say this before I get to what I was just saying. Look, it's 4 to 6 months. I would never count Hutch out, ever. So, yeah, probably, you know, long road, but I would never count him out. And I would say if anybody can make it back, it'd be him. Now, what gives me hope moving forward is Aaron Glenn. All right, we've been coaching here, man, 4 years, and he's done everything in his power to work around any personnel we have and use the players that we have and get the most production we can. And we will be able to adapt to that. I have a lot of faith in that D-line room. Mac and Levi and Reeder, you know, and Pascal and that group that's going in there, Ukwu. We got Muhammad on practice squad, Agude, Houston's still here. So we got options, and it's why we play with 3 phases. So we play offense, defense, special teams. That's why we do it. And we help each other out. So we'll be just fine. We're going to move forward. And I'll kind of leave it at that. As far as yesterday, highly productive, probably our most productive game, top to bottom, offense.
All right, so let me chat on this for just a second here. He's talking about, you know, Aaron Glenn doing a very, very good job with limited personnel and resources that he had to, you know, kind of start his career as a Detroit Lion. And I think it speaks volumes that Dan Campbell has so much trust in somebody that, for whatever reason, in a very specific, you know, set of Lions fans did not. You know, they're calling for AG, you know, to be fired and this, that, and the other thing, and not understanding that the personnel issue that the Lions were facing was real and very limited to start, you know, 2021, 2022. And now we're starting to see the fruits of the labor, right? I mean, having to be a chameleon of sorts, right? Having to blend, having to dial in your defense with limited personnel. The Lions have done a very good job. So this is no different. But now, you know, you're talking about top to bottom, a 69-man roster. And that's why Dan Campbell speaks to that so much, is the 69-man roster. It's critically important for times like this. So he has all the faith in the world in AG, and I do too right now. So we'll continue listening to Dan Campbell here.
Defense that we've played, you know, details execution on defense, 3.9 yards per play. That's huge. And then 5 takeaways. I mean, what a game. Really proud of those guys. Active, you know. Offensively, same thing. I mean, 184 yards rushing. Quarterback played lights out. Skill guys showed up. We had 14 explosives. You know, once again, Demo and Gibbs, and, you know, Sink, TP. I can go down Laporta, Leaf, you know, and then that old line played great, man. You know, Decker, Graham, Frank, Zeitler, and Sewell. So just a total team effort, and really showed up, and I was proud of those guys. So game balls defensively was Branch and Mac, and then Hutch. And offensively, it was Goff. Special teams was Bates. Thought Bates did a good job yesterday. You know, and then just a number of guys that played really good across the board, really. I mean, I think we only had maybe two guys that had losing performances. So that's pretty damn impressive. So proud of them.
You mentioned all the names that
I would really like to know, what Dan Campbell is utilizing here. I really want to know what Dan Campbell is utilizing for his metrics and his analytics that are different from PFF, because when I took a look at PFF, which they were finally ready yesterday, the grades were shocking to me. Like they were terrible in certain areas. And I'm thinking to myself, man, we just had our best game top to bottom, left to right, offense, defense, special teams. I mean, even though we didn't punt, Jake Bates did his job on special teams. And beyond that, the offense scored on every touch except for the very last, possession, with Hendon Hooker. So you can throw that one in the trash heap. You shouldn't even count that one, because that was just, hey, get in there, get some time, finish the game out. Let's limit, the possibility of injury here. So I don't get it. And that's why, PFF is on everybody's hit list, if you will, because their grades sometimes just don't make sense. But their stats, the common stats, I guess we'll call it, the touches, the receptions, the yards, and the yak, and the other little key metrics like that, those make perfect sense. Those shouldn't be any different than anybody else's. But the rest of the stats that they've built, something isn't right within their algorithm, from my opinion. Because what I saw yesterday, or what I saw on Sunday, I didn't see anybody really losing. And I definitely didn't see where Frank Ragnow had as bad of a grade as he did. Like, I thought he played pretty well. So I really want to know. I really, really want to know what he's using that's different. And Peter, I'll do me, buddy. You do you. Okay.
that could step up in Hutch's place. One of those guys we saw yesterday was Aleem. Everybody talks about the guys on the edge, but how much can he be a factor inside there? 2 sacks, 7 pressures yesterday. Just how much can he give you more in the pass rush to kind of help fill that void a little bit too?
A lot. Listen, Mac showed up, and Mac wasn't pleased with the way he played at Seattle, and so he was a man on a mission before the bye coming out, and he was locked in this week, and his mind was right, and he was going to be a factor in this game, and that's what we expect every week out of Mac. It's just that. So yeah, how much? A lot. And he's the guy. He's one of those guys we're going to lean on, and it doesn't have to be Superman, but we got to get that out of him every week, and he's got that ability. Played a heck of a game yesterday.
For a return, 4 to 6, whatever, whether he makes it back or not, right? Time will tell him that. But just to have, you've been through rehabs like this before, to have that carrot dangling of coming back, how important is that for a player to I can get there, maybe I can.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think it's huge. To be able to say, man, because it is out there. And I just knowing Hutch, Hutch is he's got one of those rare, once he believes in it, he can.
This one was kind of weird for me.
And, it's one of those guys, the mind can heal the body, and he'll find the next best thing and do whatever it takes to get back. And so who knows? But yeah, I think it's huge, man. It's just sitting right out there. I can do this. I can get back. We'll be in a position to where
I'm trying to figure out what is Dan Campbell talking about here. He was saying that Aiden Hutchinson has some sort of a weird, and then he kind of paused and kind of moved on. Like, if he thinks about it or if he believes in it, that he could do it. And I'm not sure what he was talking about. Like, he can heal himself quicker than anybody else. He can, I don't know. I know that Aiden has spoken in the past about speaking things into existence and, internalizing things and projecting, what you want to have happen, and it will happen according to Aiden. And there's a whole, I don't want to say religion, but it's kind of in that direction, but it's a mindset, but it's a little bit deeper than a mindset. I'm not going to go into it, because I'm not going to say I'm for or against or anything like that. So I'm not even going to go into it, but the fact that he's saying that Aiden can get back, and if he wants to get back, he's got the opportunity to do so, and he is somebody that could. I'm just going to tell you guys, it's probably not going to happen. This is a 6-month deal, 4-month minimum. It was not just the tibia. I mean, both bones were broken. So that's the major update to Aiden Hutchinson's injury, is that both bones were broken and both had to be surgically repaired. So he's full of metal right now inside that leg. He's got pins and screws and plates and everything else holding his leg together. That is not going to be an easy one to come back from. I appreciate Dan Campbell saying that, Aiden's a strong-willed dude and that, if anyone could come back from it early, he could, but let's have real perspective for just a moment. We're not going to see Aiden this year. And if you know what, I'll gladly eat crow if it happens, but it's not happening. There's just no, I've never heard of anybody coming back from something like that in a season. I mean, we're a third into the season. There's just no way. There's not enough time. We're heading into week 7. So that means we have 11 weeks left plus like 4 weeks of playoffs. So 15 weeks, just a little over 3 months. Yeah, there's no way. And I feel terrible because, I mean, Aiden was having a monster year, stat wise, right? Stat wise, he was. He never played his best game this season. Aiden never rose to his best game. And that is what we all love about Aiden, is that there is so much more there for him. And I'm looking forward to it. So we'll see where this progresses. But let's listen to the rest of Dan Campbell here.
I'll be able to come back and help, and I think it's huge.
The players yesterday, their devastation for him was kind of obvious, but in the video from the post-game locker room, there was nothing that would indicate that any of those players thought that their aspirations took a hit. Can you just take us in the mind of
this is big right here,
and maybe why they are still so confident in themselves going forward?
Well, I started with it yesterday. That was the first thing I said once we got done with prayer was just about Hutch, and so we'd kind of covered that. But I think what I'd say is, everybody feels for Hutch because of what I already mentioned, but they also can put themselves in his shoes, right? Because that could be any one of you. It could be any one of those players. And so it kind of brings it back to reality, like, hey, man, that's part of this game, and that's hard. But I think they also understand that, man, we are a team, and everybody is here for a reason, and it takes every one of us, and it goes back. That's why.
All right, let me pause this for a quick sec here. So, to J Mommy, yeah, there are some treatments that can help, but not. I mean, he could get, so like what people take for osteoporosis, and I don't know if any of these things are legal to take within the confines of the NFL, but yeah, you could get. And I only know about this because I know somebody that gets these infusions, but you can get an infusion that helps grow the bone extremely fast. You could also have stem cell treatments. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying that these things work. I'm not saying to go try these things at home. Please consult your physicians if you are considering doing something. Don't listen to me. But there are things out there that supposedly, reportedly, and allegedly can work and help, you heal up a little bit quicker, but you still have to get back on the field, and then you still have to train, and then you have to feel comfortable, and it has to be not just healed, like it needs to be solid, and the muscle has to, reattach and regrow, and the ligaments, everything surrounding that surgery that was just cut to pieces. They have to be, mended back together. And then you have the issue with the nerves. We don't know if there's any nerve damage here. And that is a real possibility with a snap like this of the leg, that there's going to be nerve damage. And you can't just reattach the nerves like that and hope that they're going to be fine. It's not going to happen. I'm hoping he doesn't have any nerve damage, and none of that has been spoken about yet, to my knowledge, with this injury with Aiden, and we'll find out in 3 to 6 months when we get the progress reports, hopefully. That'll be like off season, so we may not get any progress reports on Aiden until, OTAs, or rookie minicamp. We may not have anything until then. So it's going to be a very long drought, I think, if once we get past the postseason here, of knowing what's going on with Aiden.
11 on defense, 11 on offense, 11 on special teams, and we play together. And if we need help in one area, we'll get it from one of the other groups. And that's how we complement each other. And so they believe it's next man up. We talk about it all the time on the practice squad, the vet squad. Man, we're going to have injuries. Things are going to happen. You got to be able to step up, and you got to hold the line.
Yeah, Peter, I agree there.
Built this thing with depth for long-term success, but I want to frame this question in your comments post-game NFC Championship. You don't know if you're going to get back there. The windows sometimes close.
All right, so real quick before he goes into this next part, he's talking about a second ago, how deep the roster needs to be. I don't know if he already mentioned the 69-man roster again, but what I was saying earlier is there's a reason why Brad and Dan do things differently. And if you haven't noticed by now, they do things much differently than anybody else. And I'm not saying that no other team doesn't do this, but they look at their practice squad and their vet squad as an extension of the starters, as an extension of the top 53. And like he said, Dan said it in the very beginning of the season. Maybe he shouldn't have said this, but he said everybody on that squad is going to play. Now that comment has kind of come home to roost a little bit. And we've had a rash of injuries. I mean, who just mentioned it? David Barnett said Hutch, Pecco, Davenport, Kamish, Barnes, Mosley, and others, that we have lost big time starters this season. Big time. I don't know of another team that has lost more than a quarter of its starters. And not just a quarter of its starters, but probably 10%, 15% of big time impact players. That's huge for any team. You tell me another team that can lose that much and still go and win. We'll find out soon enough if we're as deep as we think we are. We're going to find out against the Vikings. This is a team. Now our offense is in good shape right now. Hopefully, knock on wood, they stay healthy. And they can manage the rest of the season, because what this is going to turn into is what we've been dealing with potentially. This is going to be an offensive-led team. I mean, we started to be an offensive-led team that, the defense was starting to catch up. The defense is finally starting to catch up, and then bang, it's injury. So maybe we're at a point now where the offense can just continue to shine and the defense can just stop the bleeding, if you will. And if they could just do that, we're back to bend but don't break. We're back to, allowing a bunch of yards after just having our best game of the season. Probably our most complete game of Dan Campbell's regime just happened in Texas. And that's a testament to Dan and Brad both. It has been a short 4 seasons, right? We're not even through 4 seasons. So 3 1/4 seasons. We're 3 1/3 seasons. And we are playing that well. And we are utilizing players that are that deep in the roster. And that's a testament to what they're doing. So have confidence, because we're going to listen to Dan Patrick here in a little bit too. But have confidence in what these two are going to do. I'm not sure if Dan already mentioned this morning that they're not really in a rush. Let's continue to listen. Let's see what he says.
And so with Hutchinson, there's a reason he plays 90% of snaps, and Davenport, there's a reason he was a starter. How long can you take to evaluate what you still have before maybe considering going outside the organization for more help?
Yeah, well, let me start here. Brad always.
Peter, I'll get back to you in a minute.
Every year, and it's not like he doesn't look. You know what I mean? So I know that. So he's doing what he's been doing. He's looking. Is there somebody out there that could potentially help us? What is it going to cost? And so those things will always come up. But just because that's there, it doesn't mean we're going to do it. And
okay, so this is where he's talking about it. Let me rewind this.
Yeah, well, let me start here. Brad always
pay attention to this part.
I mean, this comes up every year, and it's not like he doesn't look. You know what I mean? So I know that. So he's doing what he's been doing. He's looking, is there somebody out there that could potentially help us? What is it going to cost? You know, and so those things will always come up. But just because that's there, it doesn't mean we're going to do it. And it's got to be right. If it is, everything's got to be right. And honestly, where we're at now, we're not in a hurry. I mean, I believe in the guys that are here. I believe in that D line. And
Okay, so I think that if you read the tea leaves, so to speak, when I tried to call him Dan and Brad at the same time. I was calling him Dad there. When Dan and Brad had come up to the mic and tell us something, there is one constant with these guys. They don't lie to us. They've never steered us in the wrong direction. They're not going to tell us everything, right? They're not going to give us all the answers, because then you're just giving away what your team is going to do. But they've really never stood up here and just fed us a line of crap. You know, not like the other, you know, coaches do, or the other GMs do, or the other owners do. They just don't do. They don't believe in that. And I feel like that is a very good quality to have, not only as a human, as a person, as a leader, you know, as a business owner, whatever, is just staying true to you and the process and your identity and exactly what you want to do, you're going to do. But Dan just said it has to be perfect. Has to. So he's worried that if we bring somebody in right now, there's that potential inflection point that it could be a bad fit. May look great on the surface. Everything around the deal may be working, you know, in your favor. And maybe if it's not all in your favor, it's good enough. But man, if we really don't know that player, right, to kind of say what Dan said before, or Brad said before, we just don't know what's going to happen in the locker room. They may say all the right things. Yeah, you know, coach, I just want to help the team win. Yeah, coach, I'm not worried about targets. Yeah, coach, I'm not worried about, you know, being free and being a freelancer and getting after the, you know, the passer. I'm going to play within the scheme, AG. They may say all those things, but then they get on the field and it's like that switch turns on, because whatever they were able to do on their former team, well, it's just kind of muscle memory, right? They're just going to do it again. And I hate to say it that way, but it happens. We kind of fall into our old rhythm. It's no different here on the football field. I feel like, yes, we do need some help, but I'm not sure how much help we need just yet. Hutch is a huge loss, and you're never going to replace that. No matter who you bring in. Yeah, you could bring in Myles Garrett or Max Crosby, or, you know, I see Trey Hendrickson, you know, popping up a lot, or Hassan Reddick. Again, I would implore you guys to at least just go and look at what defense they've been in during their careers and what defense they're in now and how it doesn't always mesh. If they're in a 3-4-D their whole career, there's a reason for that. It doesn't mesh. If you want a 3-4 outside linebacker to take over Hutchinson's position, it doesn't work. You're bringing in a linebacker. You're not bringing in a defensive end. You need a true defensive end. So you can get rid of Hassan Reddick right off the top. It just doesn't fit. Not to mention the headache that comes with it. He's just been nothing but a headache. We don't want that. I guarantee you they don't want that kind of an issue. Now, if you're absolutely strapped and we go and lose 2 more people against the Vikings, well, then you might take a risk. You might just have to. But I don't think that they're willing to take a big risk right now when they feel this strongly about the bottom end of their roster. So let's continue listening to Dan, and then I'm going to try to get Eric brought in here.
doesn't mean we're not looking, we're not evaluating. Brad is, that's his job, and he's good at it. And we'll take it as it comes. But our eyes are open, and we want to make sure that we have what we need here.
You turned to Kuku. That was his debut. He played quite a bit down the stretch. I don't know how difficult it is situationally to evaluate an edge rusher when they can pin their ears back because the opponent's strictly throwing. But you know, what did you see on the film review? What is your confidence in his ability to contribute in this?
Well, he's a young player, you know, and that was his first taste of real NFL football. So I thought as the game went on, he got better, you know, and it looked like it was his first NFL game, you know, and that's just the truth. But I see that guy every day in practice. You know, I see a good day every day in practice. We just got Muhammad here. I've known what he's been able to do for a while. And so, man, those are guys that, you know, they're going to do what we ask them to do, and they're going to go all out to do it. And while they're doing it, they're going to continue to grow. You know, Uku will get better every week. And so, look, we everything's on the table, but, man, we're not panicked. Brad and I are not panicked, and this team's not panicked. It's next man up, and if we have an area we need some help, then we got to help each other out a little bit here, and we may have to play a little bit different, and that's okay. But I know AG is going to put together a hell of a game plan. He does every week, and he's going to use everything that he has and the resources that we have, and we'll be ready to go.
First question, I mean, you feel confident that you can win a Super Bowl, you can accomplish all your goals with what you have in house. You don't need to go out and get something.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my job is to coach what's here, and I'm going to coach the hell out of them, and we are as a staff, and so yeah, I do. And if we get somebody, great. If we don't, these are our guys, and the coaches know that. This is what we came into camp with. This is why we develop talent, and it's the next man up. They got to be ready to go.
Goff give you back the game ball. Clearly,
Yeah, he did to me.
seemed like
He just didn't want to carry his.
you know, him and I'm assuming, you know, some of the other guys wanted to really win that game for you. How much does that mean to you to hear that from him and you know, have that kind of performance?
Yeah, listen, I love those guys. I love our players, man. They're the best. They're the best, and I appreciate it. Appreciate it, you know, and the coaching staff and everybody. But look, it's not like I'm the only one from Texas. So AG's from Texas. There's a number of us, you know, Brock Wright, and so that was a great team effort. And listen, man, I love those guys, and I wouldn't trade any of them for anybody right now. This is our crew.
Come back Wednesday on it. I got to ask this: the lateral to, I'm sorry, the hook and ladder to Panay. To Panay.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the game. You guys are up 30. Like, is there any thought? What's the process of, like, should we save this for another game? Do we just run it here? You know, how do you sort of debate or go through that?
No, I think for that, we had gone in saying, man, we're using everything in our arsenal. Like, we told the players that. That's the way we worked all week, and we were using it. And we were playing football, and we were pedal to the metal. And that was the whole mindset. And then our job is to every week, you know, come back up with something more creative and find a way to continue to push the limits here. Ben does a great job in the offensive staff, and so now let's go find something else.
Best game.
Yes, it was. I would totally agree with that. That was his best game. We saw improvement in man-to-man coverage. You know, no DPIs, you know, or defensive holdings, things of that nature.
All right. So as we're learning now, as of about a minute ago, the Lions have added somebody to the roster. We're gonna talk about that here in just a moment. Let me try to get Eric in here. Let me make sure that he's even in the studio. Eric, you in the studio? All right, I see you now. Let me try to get this guy in here. One second here. This could look a little funny to get started, but we'll get it fixed. All right, Eric, just double check your audio for me real quick. And oh yeah, this is definitely going to look funny for a second. I don't even have Eric in here. Hold on a second. Oh, there he is. There he is. All right, Eric, do we have audio from you?
Should have.
All right. Beautiful.
There we go. Awesome little towel we got at the watch party.
How many people showed up?
8,500.
Not bad.
No, it was a great crowd. It was awesome. Dude, absolutely awesome experience.
Yeah, I haven't been to one in a minute, but they're fun.
They should have a watch party every away game.
I think the big games, they definitely do the big games.
Yeah.
Does everybody have audio from Eric before we go any further?
Yeah. We need that.
Eric has an echo. Probably shouldn't have an echo anymore. Let me turn off the desktop. So a little bit of breaking news here. The Lions signed defensive end off the Bengals practice squad. So you guys have all been wanting Trey Hendrickson. And this signing will tell you, this is my take, they're not bringing in Trey Hendrickson. They just signed a practice squad player. So what does that tell us? They're not looking to go out and spend a bunch of money. They're looking for some of those draft diamonds in the rough, if you will. Eric, do you want to read the notes, or do you want to read the article? Do you got it from SI?
Yeah, well, I got it from Jeremy Fowler. So the Lions plan to sign defensive end Isaiah Thomas off the Bengals practice squad per source. Former Browns draft pick gives the Detroit Lions some much needed edge help.
Yeah. I don't know if he's actually had any game time. Let's take a look. Let me pull up some stats real quick. Let's take a look.
Be good, man. Isn't he? It's Isaiah Thomas. Former Piston, man. He's coming back for one more run. Back in the D.
Yeah, he lost 30 years of age real quick.
He's one of the bad boys, man. Come on. He's got to be good.
Okay, so let's see. He was drafted in the 7th round, 2022, by the Cleveland Browns. Obviously did not make the cut and was sent to the Bengals at some point. I don't know what happened there. I don't know the transition. I don't have any information, but somehow he went from being drafted by the Browns and then ended up on the Bengals practice squad. So this is not a player that is going to give us like an immediate impact. This is more of that bottom depth. You know, we just lost, you know, a couple of guys, and now they're trying to build the depth again. They're trying to add to the funnel. Like I said yesterday, that, you know, one drops out of the funnel, one's got to drop in. Well, this guy just dropped into the funnel. Now what can, you know, Terrell Williams and AG and the rest of the crew, what can they do with this guy? How can they get him ready? We may not even see the field. He may not see the field the entire season. Now he's on the practice squads. That doesn't mean, was he signed to the roster? I don't think you can sign him from practice squad to practice squad. So he's got to be signed on the roster.
You'd have to put him straight to the roster. And on here it says that he's got 2 years of experience. He's 6'5", which is great size, and 270 pounds. Out of Oklahoma. It looks like he is in, this would be his 3rd season.
Right.
And in 2022, he played in 10 games, had 4 tackles, 5 assists for 9 combined, and then 4 solo and 1 sack.
Yeah. So here we go. When we look at his combine, that's what I'm going to go back to, because that's what matters to me the most right now with a guy that hasn't had really any time. I always start with the measurables. So if you guys have followed this channel long enough, you know that for a defensive end, for me, I looked at the top 20 defensive ends to play the game, and I combined all of their measurables. I went through all their combine stats, and then I weighted it. And what I came up with was the perfect defensive end was somewhere between 6'3.5" and 6'5". So 6'4", 6'4.25", 6'4.5". That's kind of your perfect height, right? Based on, you know, what we have seen from the best to do it. Arm length had to be north of 33 inches. So arm length is a big one to me, because that way you're able to get that leverage against the tackle. You're able to keep them at a, you know, one arm distance, and then you can rip, cut, chop, whatever you want to do, you know, to get through. But if you don't have enough arm length, and if you don't have big enough hands, the tackles are just going to eat you up. They're going to get inside you, and once you let them inside, they're going to keep you there. So that's why some defensive ends struggle in this league, is they don't have the arm length to get off of the blocks. Isaiah Thomas is 6'5" with 33 and a quarter inch arms. Not only that, he has 10 and a quarter inch hands. So from a size perspective, he's a perfect specimen, right? For a defensive end. He fits the mold. His weight is 266. So he fits right in to that 255 to 275 range, which I said would make up, a perfect size for him. I mean, he's right smack dab in the middle. Specimen wise, perfect. I know specimen's a weird word. But when you measure these guys and you look at their measurables and you evaluate everything about them, those are kind of some of the words I guess I use. Prospect grade wasn't terrible. He was a 6. Now, what does a 6 mean coming out of college? A 6 means that you're going to be a good backup with the potential to develop into a starter. Well, so far he hasn't done anything. And maybe that's because he's been behind, a couple of good guys, with the Bengals and just hasn't been able to crack the depth chart. Or maybe it's because the developmental crew for the team that he's on just isn't as good as what, other teams have. I think that we've had some of the best developing coaches that there are around the league. And Terrell Williams is going to be able to get the best out of this guy and quickly. I mean, he's going to know quickly just who Isaiah Thomas is. This is a good pickup. It's a depth pickup, though. Don't think that this is anything different. So that's really all I have to say about Isaiah Thomas. The Lions are probably still looking, right? They got their ear to the ground, but this is nothing more than they're filling bodies right now.
Yeah, and just because he signed to the 53 doesn't mean he'll be active for a while.
That's correct, too. So the Lions have been carrying 52 for a while. And that's something else I wanted to touch on today is I haven't seen another team do this. And I feel like they left that hole open because they're ready. Brad knew entering the season that there was going to be opportunities this year for him to try to poach some players and to try to do something, whether it's a trade or whatever. And he's kind of always left that spot open. I would love for him to really tell us the truth behind it. And I think that he's always kind of said, that they wanted to be versatile, right? And I think he entered this season knowing at some point I'm going to have to poach some players or I'm going to have to go in and do a trade or something to get this team over the hump or to the next level to make a run. He set this season up in a way that he knew that he was going to have that safety valve when needed. And look, it was needed. So big credit to Brad Holmes for staying prepared because we had a spot where we could just go and pluck somebody and we didn't have to do any other roster gymnastics or potentially lose a player, that we couldn't lose right now. So big ups to Brad Holmes. Now, what this is going to do is if the roster is full right now, this means that the Broderick Martin comeback is probably going to be delayed for a moment because he's got to be I think he has to be on the 53 for at least 24 hours, I think is the story. I think that's the rule. Do you remember, Eric?
I don't. Well, they can start as 3 week.
No, I'm not talking about Broderick. I'm talking about Thomas.
Oh, Thomas.
Yeah, I think he has to be on the 53 for at least 24 hours.
Well, before they can activate him?
Before they can put him back down to a practice squad.
Oh,
which I don't think that they're going to do because the Bengals would probably just go back and take him back.
Yeah. No, he'll probably stick for at least 2-3 weeks. See if he fits. If he doesn't, they'll just boot him.
According to AI, when a team signs a player from another team's practice squad, they must add them directly to the 53-man roster. And they also receive a guaranteed 3-week salary. And they will count against the 53-man roster for at least 3 weeks, even if released before those 3 weeks are over. So he's up for 3 weeks. I don't see, even if you felt like the guy wasn't going to work out, he's going to count against your 53-man no matter what, and you might as well leave him there. So he's going to be up on the roster for at least 3 weeks. So that answers that. So what do you want to bring in this morning? You wanted to jump in. What do you want to talk about? Do you have anything that was on your mind?
Yeah. So the thing that is on my mind is the actual name of your video today. Okay. So I got a little something here and I need to find it.
Oh, the name of the thumbnail?
Yeah, the thumbnail of the video.
Gotcha.
So yesterday I posted an update on my Facebook about Aiden Hutchinson and his surgery, that it's probably a 3 to 6 month kind of deal, 4 to 6 month, whatever it was. And Coach Tony got on my Facebook and started flapping his gums. And me as a Lions fan pissed me off because he wrote, "We aren't making the playoffs without Hutch." And I wrote, "Really? Go be a Packer fan. We will be fine." And then he wrote, "Be realistic. Stop being like all these new fans." That's it. And I wrote, "I guarantee Holmes does not mortgage any high draft picks. Won't happen." So listen.
So Tony thinks that we're not going to make the playoffs because we lost touch.
Yeah. So he came in last week, all roses and flowers and all sunshine and nice. And that wasn't real Tony. Real Tony.
Well, he lost. I mean, he said his piece and he accepted his loss. He accepted the fact that he was wrong.
Yeah, but now he's back to it. So I'm calling you out, Tony. Oh man, the guy drives me nuts because it's always doom and gloom with him.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of fans are in doom and gloom right now because they think that Aiden's the only. They think that, and I'm not going to be negative against Aiden, but I'm going to be right in Dan Campbell's lane right now.
Yep.
You move forward. It's next man up. You believe in the 69 men that you started with, and now we just brought in another player. Just because you lost, and I said this yesterday, I said it on Sunday after the game. You lost Aiden. So what do? You just say, "Oh, season's over, guys. We're just not going to practice hard the rest of the year. We're just going to kind of take the week off and don't worry about the Vikings. It doesn't matter. We're not going to make the playoffs." Nah.
Yeah, we're just done.
Yeah, we're just gonna pack it in. Enjoy your paychecks throughout the rest of the season. Just kind of go half-ass in practice. Just don't get hurt, and that's it. We're just gonna pack it in.
No
Get
more Super
real.
Bowl. No more Super Bowl talk.
Yeah. Well, they don't talk about Super Bowl anymore anyway. But that's a fan-driven thing now.
Listen, Vegas believes. You go to Vegas. You go on the betting sites right now. Lions are number 2 in the NFC to win the Super Bowl. And that's only behind the 49ers. So they still believe in the 49ers. They still believe in the Lions over the Vikings. And then to win the NFC North, the Lions still lead in that division. According to Vegas, they have the best odds to win the North still.
Hold on. Back up. What did you say about the 49ers?
The 49ers have the best in the NFC. The best odds to go to the Super Bowl.
Okay. The 49ers have the best odds in the NFC to go to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And the 49ers.
Yep. The Lions are second.
The 49ers don't even have Christian McCaffrey. So do you guys see the parity here? You've got Aiden gone and Christian gone. Wouldn't you say that they are equal to their teams?
Yeah.
Christian is huge to the 49ers. And so is Aiden to the Lions. But yet they're not giving up on their season. They're still winning games over there in San Fran.
Yep.
They lost a huge piece to their offense. We lost a huge piece to our defense. You find another way to get it done. That's why these guys are professionals at what they do. So the Lions they're going to figure out another way to get it done. And this is why I said the most important move the Lions had to make this offseason was to get interior pressure through defensive tackles. Because if you can't get it done on the outside, you have to get it done through the inside. But that has always been the path to the quarterback. It's always going to be the path to the quarterback. You go talk to any football guru, someone that's been doing it, at the professional level, and they're going to tell you the same thing. The path to the quarterback is through the interior of a defense. The edge, the pass rush, They just play cleanup duty or they're on blitz duty, right? They're the flashy players. But the guts, right? The real work, it comes from the interior. Our interior is still good right now. It's really good, and it's about to get better. I wouldn't be afraid of the Lions going out and finding another defensive tackle, to be honest with you. If we found another defensive tackle to make sure that that area is solidified, we can get sacks through the middle of the defense. And we can get more coverage through the back end of the defense that is going to allow maybe a 3-star defensive end have some success. These are professional athletes. Ed O'Neill, shout out to Ed O'Neill, $4.99 super chat of the day, says, get Tony back on the show, please. I'm going to choose to wait to see how the D-line plays versus the Vikings before I make an opinion. I did ask Tony last night if he wanted to come on today, but it was kind of late. I didn't hear back from him. I'm sure he'll be back on this week at some point. Couple of things I want to touch to, though. There was a super chat earlier that I missed, and I can't get back to it right now. It won't let me wind all the way back. Was that you, Ed, that put that one in there and you asked a question, I think? I don't remember who it was, and I apologize, but I didn't get a chance because I was stuck in a screen. I didn't get a chance to go back over. Whoever it was, I appreciate you guys. Let's give you guys a Gibbs TD this morning.
Goff takes the snap, Gibbs to Gibbs. Gibbs bounces through a hole. There it goes outside 20. Gibbs 15. Gibbs 10. Angling to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Oh, baby, what a run.
All right. So at the end of the day, the Lions are going to figure it out.
Yes.
Okay. Right now, who do we have on the outside right now starting against Minnesota?
Ukwu.
No, it's not. It's not going to be Ukwu, I don't think.
You don't think so?
No. Let's take a look at the Lions depth chart real quick. And then I want to move on to a couple of other things. So this is going to get me off track here. All right. So right now you have Isaac Ukwu, James Houston, Mekhi Wingo. Mekhi Wingo can play on the outside. Josh Paschal. Levi O can play on the outside. But let's just look at who we really have. You got James Houston, Isaac Ukwu, Josh Paschal. That's it. We got 3. And now we got Isaiah Thomas. The Lions are probably going to find somebody else. It's probably not going to be a top tier guy. I would be very surprised if it is. But if it is, great. I just hope it makes sense. And I'm sure it will, knowing and trusting what Brad does. Okay, so let's just look at James Houston for a moment. We know that he can do it. We also know that he hasn't had enough of an opportunity this season to show that he can do it. Confidence is everything in this league. James Houston just needs to get in the damn game and get a sack, and his confidence is going to go sky high. As soon as he gets his confidence back, he's going to get back to the player that he was. It may not be 100% who he was. I think that AG has pounded him into the ground. There's something not right between those guys. That's just my opinion. I don't know if it's a fact. Let him eat. Give him an opportunity. Let him go get his confidence back. Put him in a position to win. And then James will be able to help us out. He is your third down guy, so you do need to have somebody else in there for first and second and potential fourth downs. Right? So is Isaac Ukwu that guy? Could be. But I'd rather trust that we have Josh Paschal in there as our big end. We need to put James Houston in there as our speed end. And then maybe you're rotating more linebackers in. Maybe now you're going to see more 5-man fronts, as where before we had a lot more 4-man fronts. We might even go to 3-man fronts and go big in the middle to get more pressure up the middle on the quarterback and then free release a linebacker. You go 3 big down linemen and then you go 4 linebackers. You go into a 3-4 defense. You start installing some defenses like that this week so that we have those options available to us where we can utilize where we're deep right now, which is the linebacker room. That is the next deepest position on this team. Right after the defensive backs, which is our deepest position on the defense right now. Our defensive backs can be utilized in more of a nickel situation where they can free blitz the quarterback. So we can find ways to get pressure. We haven't done a whole lot of linebacker blitzes. We haven't done a whole lot of nickel, DB blitzes at all this season. So that is something that is a new wrinkle that we haven't utilized a ton that these offenses haven't seen from us, which will give us an opportunity to win. Do not discount Aaron Glenn. I got real sick of the fact that people were calling for his head when he just didn't have the personnel. And now that he had the personnel, we've seen him win big time. He just needed the players. Now we're going to see what kind of coordinator he really is when your number one defensive end is out of the game. What do you think about Aaron Glenn, Eric, and where he came from to start with the Lions in 21, what he dealt with, finally got a good core of players this season, and now he's kind of back into that same situation where he doesn't have the top tier player, but he has a much bigger core, right? We have a much broader base of players that have been around now for 3 and 4 seasons.
I'll say this about Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn is bullheaded. And it used to make me mad to no end to watch this zone coverage over and over and over and over, and everybody dinking and dunking over the middle and just score, and run up the yardage. And we had the worst, some of the worst DB play in the world that's ever been seen. It was horrible. But now he has pieces and it's looking so much better. If you go look right now on PFF and you click defense, guess who's number 1? The Detroit Lions. Go look at the offense. Number 3. We are very highly rated through PFF. So they're thinking we're doing very well. And on defense, I know a lot of that is because of Aiden Hutchinson, because he was the highest rated player in the NFL for defense. And he was number 1 in sacks, number 1 in pressures, number 1 in hits. He was number 1 in a lot of stuff. And that's going to be a big, giant piece that we have to replace. But I'm going to say this. The one thing about Aiden Hutchinson is sometimes he did not like to set the edge. Even this year, he liked to crash down quite a few times or try to do a spin move, and he'd go inside, and the quarterback or the running back would take the outside, and off they go. Kenneth Walker, there's one right there. He did it a bunch of times. And I'm thinking you might have a guy that comes in now that's more stay home, not just trying to get
disciplined.
Not just trying to get the sack on every single play. Hutch had the physical talent to try to get a sack on every single play. The guy that comes in is going to have to do his job. So whoever comes in, as long as they just do their job, man, AG gets them ready and just does their job. Perfect. I'll take it. I see no reason why the Lions cannot go to the playoffs, cannot win the NFC North, and cannot go to the Super Bowl. Why not? Why not us?
Yeah.
It's not all doom and gloom just because Hutch is gone.
Right. Let me clarify a couple of things. Applying pressure. I'm not saying that I'm speaking specifically to applying pressure in the chat. I'm not saying specifically that the Lions are going to go to a 3-4 defense consistently. They can't do that. They won't do that. What I'm saying is you scheme it up into a 3-4 at times when you need to get more pressure on the quarterback, utilizing more linebackers. We can do the same thing with other defensive fronts. We can bring in 4 down linemen, 4 backs, but then you're limited to 3 corners. So it really has to be dependent upon what the offense is doing, right? If the offense doesn't have 3 wide receivers out there, then you can get away with doing things a little bit differently. But then you're also asking linebackers to drop in coverage, which I don't believe we have the best linebackers to drop back in coverage. So all I'm saying is schematically, Aaron Glenn is going to do something a little bit different, and he's still going to find the right results. Let me throw this at you guys. The number one thing that we must continue to do, without a doubt, is stop the run. That's it. We have already shown that we can win games without sacks.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Aiden Hutchinson had one good game. He had 5 sacks in the game. Really didn't do much in any of the other games. He would get a sack late in the game. Happened in this game, late in the game. Happened against the Seahawks, I believe it was late in the game. So it's not all about sacks. I know that certain people cry about sacks. Sacks does not equal wins. You can have the most sacks in the league. Does not mean you're going to win the Super Bowl. Doesn't mean that you're going to win in the playoffs. Doesn't mean that you're going to win games. What matters is schematically, you stay disciplined. What matters is that you do a few things very well. Shut down the run. Make a team more one-dimensional, and then allow your DBs to close out the game. The Lions just allowed Dak to only throw for, 174 yards or whatever it was in the game? So under 200 yards. It was the best game they've played by far this season. And, oh, by the way, quick update on Carlton Davis. I saw somebody was asking. He already cleared protocol.
Oh, really?
Davis is not going to be missing any time, so he'll be in against the Vikings this week.
Yeah, Rodrigo's cleat came and hit him right in the friggin' head. Wow.
If you look at our pressure, okay, and speaking back to you, applying pressure, good name, by the way. I know this is hard to understand for some people. So the true nature of applying pressure and what a pressure means is simply just pushing a tackle or a guard into the pocket. 1 yard. That's it. So you're moving that tackle or that guard from the line of scrimmage 1 yard back. Well, that doesn't mean that you are now inside the quarterback's, arm length or anything to be able to affect his throw. You're not doing enough to affect the quarterback. To me, what a pressure is when you affect the quarterback. Now, I did a segment on this a few weeks ago. I went through, there's like 12 different ways they categorize pressures. The thing that matters to me the most is a couple of things. One, that you're getting pressure in under 2.5 seconds. I know that Next Gen Stats now carries a stat that's under 3 seconds. They call it a quick pressure. I don't know who changed it from 2.5 to 3 seconds, but I'm sorry, it's still 2.5 seconds. Quick pressures under 2.5 seconds are what is going to affect a quarterback the most, number one. Number two, when you get a pressure, what's going to be a check mark or check in the box for a pressure has to be affecting the quarterback. So you have to be up in his face, right? Whether it's a quarterback hurry, a quarterback hit, those are also counted as pressures, not just moving a tackle or a guard a few feet. Like move the guard or the tackle into the quarterback. Get around the quarterback, not out here, in here, right? You want to be affecting the quarterback to where he has to step left or right or back, get out of the pocket. That's when a pressure matters the most. All the other pressures, 75% of them that are just barely, moving a guard or a tackle into the zone, those don't really do a whole lot. They just get counted. So go look at what pressure really did. You go look at Aiden's 20 pressures in a game. How many of them really affected the quarterback? I will bet you, and I would lay my bottom dollar on this, less than 25% of those pressures actually did anything to the quarterback. I would guarantee it. And we'll watch tape tonight. So we'll find out again tonight. We're going to key in on Aiden tonight. Man, that play that we're going to watch tonight is going to be terrible. I wonder if I'm sure it's in there. But we're gonna look at it tonight, and we're gonna see how many of those pressures really affected the quarterback. Because, in my opinion, we've been getting better pressure through the center of the defense. That is what's affecting the quarterback more, because the quarterback is throwing forward more times than not. Right? You're throwing in this 1/3 space. Right? You're throwing forward over the center or over the guards. Usually that's kind of where the ball flight is. You're not throwing, wide nines off to the tackles here. So, I think you guys understand where I'm going here. Now that I'm way off pace this morning, let's wind it back a little bit. Let's get back to the roster, man. I didn't do a roster, but that was in the solo.
DJ Reader and Aleem McNeil, man, did they look good in this last game? Both of them.
They looked great.
The eyeball test, man. I know Aleem got 2 sacks, but listen, they were monsters. If you watch the interior of the defensive line on almost every play, they were crashing right into the backfield, pushing their dude right into Dak. Dak had no time to throw. Dak was flustered all day. And that's why Dak threw the interceptions and the incompletions, and the balls just went flying to no one.
So let me ask you guys this in the chat. And you may already know the answer because you've looked up the stats. How many pressures do you think Aiden had? And I can't remember, when exactly did Aiden go out? Was that the fourth quarter?
Third quarter.
Third quarter.
9 minutes left. Yeah.
Okay. So how many pressures do you think that Aiden had in this game? I'm curious.
I'm guessing 6.
I'm sure you already looked at the stats.
I didn't. I absolutely did not for Hutch. I know he had the highest grade. That's all I knew.
Well, he had 5. That's it. 5. We had 24 total pressures in this game. We had 7 from Aleem McNeil. Aleem McNeil had more pressure than Aiden Hutchinson in this game. We had 2 from DJ Reader, so that's 9 from the middle of our defense. I don't know where they're getting 24 because their math isn't mathing to me, but yeah, because in here it has 5 for Hutch, 1 for Brian Branch, 7 for Aleem, 2 for DJ, 1 for Kyle Pecco, 2 for Trevor Nowaski, 1 for Isaac Ukwu, 1 for Levi O, 1 for Wingo, 2 for Josh Pascal, 1 for Alex Anzalone, and it equals 24. That's 5, 6, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yeah, I guess it is 24. Ed O'Neill, another $1.99 super chat, says Vikings inside outside linebackers isn't the best. Levi and Aleem time. There you go. I do like the Vikings linebackers, though. I think that they have a pretty solid defensive line, and their linebackers are going to be tough. I think that they're probably playing at the best clip right now of anybody in the league, to be honest with you, Ed.
I think he's saying their offensive line isn't the best. Levi and Aleem time.
Was he talking about their? Okay, I thought he was talking about their linebackers. No, he's talking about their guards. I see you. My problem. Yeah. Or my bad. So let me just count up how many interior pass rush or pass pressures we had. Interior pressures we had. We had 7 for Aleem, 2 for Reader. That's 9. 1 for Pecco. That's 10. 1 for Levi, that's 11. One for Wingo, that's 12. So more than half of the 24 pressures on Dak came from the inside of the defense, the tackles. And then if we look at the rest, we had from the DBs or the linebackers, we had 1 from BB. 2 from Trevor Nowaski, that's 3. 1, I'm not going to count the edge. 1 from Alex Anzalone, that's 4. And that's it. So we had 4 from linebackers or defensive backs. So 16 out of the 24 pressures came from anybody but a defensive end. And we totally shut the Cowboys down. I think that's pretty telling. And Aiden didn't get a sack until he was injured on that play. So again, I'm not stacking on Aiden today. I'm just saying it is what it is right now. That the Lions defense played extremely well through the center of the defense, the way that they were supposed to, and then applying more opportunities to the DBs and the linebackers, which is something, Eric, how long have I been asking for that?
Mm-hmm.
All season, I've been asking for it. So I think this tells you guys that we can get it done with what we just did against the Cowboys.
So I got a little bit of breaking news.
All right, what do we got?
It's not news that I like. Okay. So Hassan Riddick has just been given a 12-hour window to gauge interest for a trade by his new agent, Drew Rosenhaus. So they have 12 hours to try to gauge the trade interest. The Jets are going to let them seek a trade for 12 hours.
So that they're probably looking at the Lions situation, and they're saying, all right, we know somebody needs somebody. Let's. And I'm surprised that Drew Rosenhaus even picked up Hassan Reddick.
Call their bluff.
Yeah. They're not going to stop. I mean, he's not going to play for the Jets. He doesn't want to play for the Jets. I'm wondering if Aaron Rodgers is part of the problem here for Hassan Reddick. Even though
that dude either.
Again, Nick P, I know you like Reddick, but he's a 3-4 linebacker. He's not a defensive end. He won't be up on the end. He would have to take over for Nowoski or Anzalone or somebody. He wouldn't be up on the end. He's a linebacker. He's too small. We need guys that are 260 pounds. You know, like James Houston is about as small as they get. James Houston is really a linebacker too, but he plays, the speed end, and that's why he's only in on third downs. So I would just be cautious here. So let's talk about some grades. Actually, let me get back to my roster here. Dan Campbell press conference. We went through that. Lions won't rush to find Aiden Hutchinson's replacement. And this article came out, I believe, last night. Now, obviously, we heard, Dan Campbell kind of say that. Now, the trade deadline is November 5th this year. So it's not the end of October. It's 1 week later. So it's right between week 9 and week 10, which it's kind of different this year. I don't know. The 5th, is that a Tuesday or a Wednesday? I don't remember. So essentially, there's only 3 more weeks for teams to determine if they want to be buyers or sellers. 3 weeks. That's it. Mm-hmm. So no matter what, that's your timetable for the Lions. They have less than 3 weeks to figure it out. That said, there are some teams that should be well aware of where they stand right now. The longer the Bengals lose, I mean, yeah, there's an opportunity there for Hendrickson. The fact that the Lions just picked up one of their practice squad players, I would say Hendrickson is way on the outs. Probably not going to happen. The Raiders, they've lost 2 straight games. They're 2-4. They're obviously not playoff contenders at this point. Probably never were. After Sunday's loss to the Steelers, though, they also have 2 stars on their team, one of which has been very open about wanting to be traded, which is Devontae Adams. And then you hear that he might stay. I'm totally out on that whole thing. Like, I don't even follow the Devontae Adams stuff anymore. It's just noise at this point. Now, both players have expressed different opinions on leaving Las Vegas. I would say that, again, according to this article, they kind of feel the same way, that the Raiders really can't deny an opportunity for a trade. I think that when you have players that maybe want to leave, like Devontae, I think the best thing to do is try to find a way to get that player out. Otherwise, it just becomes a problem in your locker room. There's been a lot of speculation about whether or not either player will wind up in a different jersey before the trade deadline. I'm not so sure here. They have spoken about the Detroit Lions, and the quote here is, the Detroit Lions are not likely to go after Max Crosby. Now, even after the star pass rusher Aiden Hutchinson suffered it was a season-ending leg injury against Dallas on Sunday, many fans started speculating what the move would look like for the Lions if they were going to replace, Aiden Hutchinson's position. The Lions are Super Bowl contenders. The Super Bowl window is now, and wasting any years could be detrimental to the team. And that is a fact. And that is a very big, bold statement and fact. When your window is open, you never know when it's going to be open again. It is usually unlikely for you to have back-to-back opportunities. So the fact that the Lions are cooking right now and they have an opportunity to make it deep into the playoffs, the window's wide open. Now, given the Raiders' 2-4 record, it stands to reason that Vegas would be interested in parting ways with one of their, high-priced athletes, but also for the right price. Crosby seemed visibly upset with the organization after shoving his assistant coach, Mike Caldwell, during Sunday's loss. However, Crosby later cleared up the situation, calling the shove a love push. Crosby assured fans.
That video?
No, I have not seen it. But Crosby,
I'm gonna tell you right now. Go watch that video. There is no way that was a playful push. He full on pushes the dude away from him. That it was way worse than the Aaron Rodgers, Robert Saleh push. This is get the F away from me, dude. I'm telling you, it's funny. It's I wouldn't be surprised if the dude fell backward. Right in the chest.
Let's just watch it. Let's pull it in here. Hold on.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah, that playful push.
All right, here we go. Oh, that's definitely not it. That's definitely not it. Hold on here. I gotta find my other screen. All right, here we go.
There it is. Yeah. Get the F away from me.
Well, I don't know. I mean, his player kind of tapped him on the back yeah. So
I don't know. Maybe 25's in on it too.
But hold on. You look there. The coach kind of smiles a little bit there. He kind of goes off screen, but you can tell he's starting to smile a little bit.
I didn't look like a playful push to me. That get the F out of here.
I'm not gonna buy into the hype. I'm not buying into it. Whatever. I look at if that was not a playful intent, they probably would have fined him or suspended him or something.
I gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think any team is going to allow that to happen to their coaches. Look, there's a very the NFL is keyed in on violence, so they're not going to allow any violence to happen, whether it's off the field, on the field. They're not going to allow it to happen. And in the NFL, I'm sure would have picked up the phone and said, "Hey, what's going on here? This is a bad look. Either you got to suspend the dude, fine the dude, print a statement, something. But we need to know what's going on here. The fans need to know what's going. We can't have this identity." So I'm sure that if there was more to it, that they probably would have come out with something. That's just my take on it. I could be wrong. Will the Lions make a move for anyone else? This is what this article is asking. Now, given Schefter's thoughts, it appears that the Lions will not go after any huge names like Crosby, Myles Garrett, or Hassan Reddick. However, perhaps a smaller name on another sub-500 team like Chase Young, Josh Hines-Allen, or Brian Burns could be on the table. I don't think so either. If they wanted Chase Young, they would have brought him in last year. If they wanted Josh Allen, they would have brought him in last year. If they wanted Brian Burns, they would have brought him in last year. Not going to happen. But while these would all still be hefty prices, they would likely draw the same price as Crosby or Garrett, which again doesn't make any sense. So as it stands, though, no rumors have emerged. So if anyone's out there saying this is going to happen or that's going to happen or Brad Holmes is on the phone or this, that, they're all full of shit. No rumors have started with any of these players. None. There's nothing to talk about here. But again, coming from Adam Schefter, the Lions are not in the market to go after a big-time player. Now, Schefter's been wrong in the past, but I'd say he's pretty plugged in.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I have said, though. I mean, for me, I've been saying this the whole time. They're going to probably find second-tier guys. Isaiah Thomas is more of a third tier guy, but they're probably going to find a second tier guy, maybe a $6, $7, $8, $9 million a year guy. If anybody, that's probably what they're going to find. They're not going to break the bank. They're going to use who they have. They're going to build out the depth chart and continue to build that way is what I see happening here. I definitely got something going on with my computer. Every time I have the chat open, it dies. It just goes away. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know. So what's up next here? Let's see what's up here. Dan Patrick. Let's bring Dan Patrick in.
Hey, Will.
Yes, sir.
Before you do, just to let you know, I do got to fly. So my appointment's at 10 o'clock, but I got to leave by 9:30. So
all right, buddy. We'll see you.
I will see you tomorrow.
All right, man. Take care. Have a good day.
Recapping some items.
Where are we at here? There we go. Let me fix my screen real quick. And while I do that, I do want to bring in Dan Patrick and what he had to say.
Recapping some items. Last night, the Bengals get a must needed win. The Lions roll the Cowboys, but in the process, they lose their great defensive lineman, Aiden Hutchinson, for the season. We'll have more on that in a moment. Ravens beat the Commanders, although I thought Jaden Daniels looked really good in that loss. But that was a fun matchup there. Texans win, Packers, Bears, Bucks, Eagles, Chargers, Steelers, Colts, Falcons, and the Bengals. Back to the Lions over the Cowboys. I mean, that's one of those, you got the win, an impressive win, but I don't think you celebrate with that when you lose Aiden Hutchinson. I would be on the phone with the Cleveland Browns this morning. I would, right at 9 o'clock or whenever they open for business, I'd be like, Myles Garrett, we'd like to know what it would take to get him. This is your year. You got it. You're all in. You lose your best defensive player. You got to go all in. You got to get somebody. You got a great offense here. But I would say, what would it take to get Myles Garrett? Or you go around the league and see if there's somebody else available. I'd call the Jags while they're in London. They're further along in the day over there, so audio, they would be ready. They'd be awake for quite some time there and say, hey, you got anybody that you would like to trade? Because now all of a sudden you start to see these teams, if you've got one win, you don't have any wins, is it time to then sell off? And November 5th, I believe, is the trade deadline. So it is right around the corner there. But I would certainly ask about Myles Garrett. Now, I don't know if you're going to get Myles Garrett. I don't know what it would take to get Myles Garrett. But if I'm the Lions and I have to give up a first and a second or first and a third or pay part of the salary, whatever it is, you have your moment here. Because I don't know if you have a great team in the NFC right now, unless it's the Lions, because the 49ers are still banged up. Eagles, they're not convincing me of anything right now. Cowboys, we know that. Are the Vikings a great team? Packers, are they a great team? So you have your moment. You had it last year, and you let it slip away. You got to go out and get somebody. Yes, Eden.
And hopefully the Lions are looking at sort of this window and recognizing how quickly they close.
Yeah.
You know, the NFL has a bunch of teams right now that just 2 years ago were set up for the next 10 years, and they're terrible right now, or things are just a mess. You have to be all in right now for this year, I think, if you're the Lions.
All right, so let's talk about that. Matter of fact, I was just saying that a few minutes ago, that the window is wide open. And according to Seton and Dan Patrick, the window was last year, and fortunately the window is still open. And they're saying that the Lions need to be all in this year, because we don't know if it's going to be open again next year or ever again. And according to Seton, he made a good point. There was a plethora of teams that looked like they were set up for the next 10 seasons. They either just can't get over the hump, right? They Baltimore Ravens is probably one. The San Francisco 49ers is another team that, they are built. and they just can't seem to win a Super Bowl. They can't get over the hump. But they are a team that comes back every year. And every year they make some noise in the playoffs. Who's another team that's been built, right, to the hilt and ready to make a run? Who's another team that we could think of here that just hasn't been able to get it done? You've got some new teams. Right now you have the Texans. They're a new team that is coming up, right? They haven't been up. The Bills. How about the Bills? The Bills have been a very strong team. But for whatever reason, when their window seems to be open, they just can't get it done. But I wouldn't say that they're a mess right now. I wouldn't say that they're a mess at all. The Steelers, I wouldn't say they're a mess right now, but I would also say that they just can't get it done either. But again, a perennial team, a perennial playoff team, a perennial plus 500 team. The Bengals, now that's a team. That's a team that was built to the hilt. That you look at them like, man, they've got the quarterback, they've got the receiver, they've got good defense. They're going to be strong for 10 seasons. And right now, everything is a mess inside the Bengals. Who's another team? The Eagles? I would say so. The Eagles have problems. But again, it's a team that is built, from top to bottom, left to right, offense, defense, and they just can't seem to get it right. Cowboys, we know they're a mess. And again, they're also a team that has been loaded for a very long time. But for whatever reason, they just can't get it done in the playoffs. We know the reason. It's Jerry. Seahawks, another team that's built. I wouldn't say that everything's a mess with the Seahawks because they're under new, leadership, and I feel like they're doing just fine. But maybe prior to that with Pat Carroll, it was a team, or did I say Pete Carroll? Pat. Maybe, prior to with Pete Carroll, the team was built, right? I mean, they just couldn't seem to get it done with Russell Wilson and the rest of that team. I think they got it done once very early in Russell's career. But for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons, couldn't figure it out. And now they, I wouldn't say they're a mess because they're under new leadership, but they were starting to become a mess, towards the end of Pete Carroll's reign there. Bears? Yeah, they got a winning record right now. But prior to this season, they were a huge mess. But you would say that their roster was pretty good. They just never really had the best quarterback or quarterback situation. You thought that Justin Fields was going to be somebody. You built around Justin Fields, and you just couldn't get it done. So what I think he's trying to say here is you don't want the Lions to end up in that situation. The good news is, I don't think that the Brad Holmes that we know is ever going to let the Lions sink to those lows. And this is why, and we're going to get back to Dan Patrick here in just a second, but this is why you don't go out and sign big name players in free agency. This is why you don't go and spend a boatload of money when, you're up against it and press the panic button and make a rash, decision. And a big purchase usually comes out of panic, right? That's going to hurt you down the line. You say it won't. I mean, was it worth risking it all for a Super Bowl? Probably, especially for a team in a city that hasn't experienced one. You could make an argument that it's worth it, but you just don't know if it's going to get you there. And if it doesn't, and it blows up in your face like that, then you're faced with another situation. Did I just ruin this team's chances for the next 3 or 4 seasons because we overspent and it didn't work? And I guess to say it the other way, you just don't know what you don't know. So let's listen to what else Dan Patrick's talking about here.
I don't know if the Bengals will sell, but here's the thing. The Bengals might say the following. You can have Myles Garrett, you have to take Deshaun Watson. I know.
But to do what?
Please no.
I don't know, but it feels like, okay, we're going to give you something, but you also have to take something. I mean, you're going to have to start over, and maybe you're starting over after next season. Then you get out of that contract. You try to move forward there. But, people had high hopes for the Browns. They were a playoff team last year. Deshaun Watson coming back, and I know there's a lot of baggage with him. But we thought if he ever reclaimed sort of that pedestal that he was on with the Texans when he played great football for a bad team, and the Browns can be threatening. And they're not. They just have no spark. They really don't even seem like they're interested. And that's strange to say this early in the season. But I'm watching, and I don't see anything.
All right. So that's enough full DP. For me, it's this simple. The Lions window is open. Let me fix my view here. The Lions window is open. I don't see that, the Lions are going to be rash buyers. They're not going to make rash decisions. They're going to make decisions that are good for this team now and good for this team in the future. We are expecting to get Aiden back. So if you fill his spot with another player, what does that say about Aiden and, his potential, his potential bag that he, was allotted to probably get here this offseason. And I've seen where some people said, well, Aiden wasn't meant to get, a bag this offseason. He's under contract for another couple seasons. Well, that's not real true because Penei Sewell was still under contract. You didn't have to pay him. Amon-Ra St. Brown was still under contract. You didn't have to pay him. Hell, Jared Goff was under contract for another season. You didn't have to pay him. 2 seasons. You didn't have to pay him. Why do you think they paid him? Number one, you want to get in front of the curve, right? Before the position becomes more expensive. 2, you want to lock these guys up when you have an opportunity to, especially if they're playing well. And the way Aiden was playing, he was playing extremely well. So it was expected that he was going to get a bag. And he probably would have been extended in the offseason. Now, but the point that I'm going to make here is now you've kind of saved that money, right? Because of an injury, you've kind of saved that money. So what does that mean? Does it mean that you can now go spend the money? Well, you're still going to have to pay Hutch when he comes back. I mean, at some point, the guy is going to get paid. I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion here that they want to keep Aiden around for the long term. I mean, he's your guy. He's somebody that you want to grow with, with this team for the next 10 seasons. So it's not like you're just going to totally back off and not, not pay the guy later on. Sorry, I'm fixing a couple of things here. For some reason, my screen just keeps dying. I don't understand it. Keep saying I don't have enough memory, yet I have way more memory than I would ever need. At the end of the day, the Lions are going to do their shopping, right? They're going to make the best decision for them this year and next year and the 5 years following that. Whether that's Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, Hassan Reddick, or any of the other big-time, playmakers, I'll trust that Brad Holmes makes the right decision. If he picks any one of those players that, that I've said would be a headache like Hassan Reddick, it is what it is. And I'll just assume that Brad is going to be right. But I'm also not saying that is the end-all, be-all. I do want to wind back to a comment that was made just a moment ago. And it was about last year's NFC Championship. I don't know who said it, but I think I vaguely remember what the comment was. And it was something like we lost the game to the San Francisco 49ers because we didn't have a pass rush. And I would say that that's a largely false statement. That is not why we lost that game. We lost that game because Jahmyr Gibbs fumbled. We lost that game because Josh Reynolds dropped a pass. We lost that game because Dan didn't take the points in the first half. We lost that game because of 4 or 5 or 6 different reasons. We lost that game because AG's defense in the second half was too aggressive and didn't play the bend but don't break. If we would have played the bend but don't break that we just did against the Seahawks, we probably would have prevented them from scoring. We lost that game because we didn't have a defensive backfield that was worth a damn. But really, we lost that game when, we allowed Brock Purdy to scamper free for first downs and make plays with his legs. So your pass rush was getting out of contain. Your pass rush was getting too deep, right? Your pass rush was getting beyond, which was Aiden, where he needed to be. But I'm not going to fully blame Aiden. There's a lot of reasons why we lost that game, but it wasn't just because of pass rush. It's because we didn't have enough of an interior presence. We probably really didn't belong in that game based on the roster that we had. I think that they all overachieved last year. I think all of them overachieved, especially when you look at how the Lions year over year completely wiped out the defensive line and the backfield and pretty much started all over again. They kept a few players, yes, but the back end is totally different. They added DJ Reader, Kyle Pecco, Isaac Ukwu, Mitchell Agudi. I mean, he was on the roster, I think, the year before, or maybe not. So they added a lot of new players this year, a lot better players. But that's not why we lost that game. It wasn't because of pass rush. And I don't know who keeps saying that stuff, but they're wrong. I'm sorry. They're entitled to their opinion, just like I am mine. But I would say that's a wrong statement. The pass rush was fine. It's finishing that was the problem. It's not beating your one-on-ones. It's not playing smart football. That's what gets you beat. That's what gets you beat. We didn't have the personnel that we have this year. If we had this personnel and we were healthy in last year's, we are in the Super Bowl hands down. This team is still built to go. So that's where I'm going to go next. The Super Bowl hype. Is it over? Are you guys out on the Super Bowl? Let me put that into the chat here. Do you guys still feel that this team can make it? I'd like to know in the chat and in the comments. Can we make it to the Super Bowl with the roster that we have right now? I would really love to know. Obviously, it's Y for yes and for no. Or type it in, yes and no, whatever. Give me your thoughts in the comments. You tell me, can we still make the Super Bowl? I'm going to tell you definitively we can. That's my opinion. And I will die on that hill alone if I have to, that if we don't make it, hey, that's fine. But I'm not going to sit here and say that it's over. Here's the headline that I read. Right after spilling coffee all down my shirt. Here's the headline that I read. Aiden Hutchinson's injury reaction. Lions might have lost the Super Bowl to their NFL's best team. I don't even understand what that means. I really don't. I don't understand what that means. From Lions might have lost the Super Bowl. Oh, maybe I read it backwards. The Lions might have lost the Super Bowl to our NFL's best team. And people need to learn how to write better. I don't know who even wrote this, but it's terrible. Here's the reaction from the NFL pundits. Was a quick and decisive Monday morning. The day after defensive end Aiden Hutchinson suffered a broken tibia and fibula in the Detroit Lions 47-9 victory over the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday in Dallas. On ESPN's Get Up show on Monday morning, analyst and former NFL head coach Rex Ryan was asked if the Lions are still Super Bowl contenders without Hutchinson. Before I finish that, again, Ed O'Neill lights it up with a $1.99 super chat, and he says, Hutch's injury makes 24-7 hurt even more, in my opinion. What's 24-7? 24-7. 24-7. We won 47-9. So here's the quote. Man, they dominated the game. They won the game, obviously, but might have lost the Super Bowl. This is what Rex Ryan said. That's the way I see it. That's how good a player Aiden Hutchinson is. It's just a darn shame because this is a kid right here, homegrown guy, who takes so much pride in that team, that organization, a Dan Campbell handpicked player, him and Penei Sewell representing this team so much. Not only do you lose the best defensive player in the league, but you lose that leader also. You see that team, they're going to try and rally around him. They're great teammates and stuff like that. From that standpoint, this opens it up. Some of these other teams that had no chance against Detroit now have a chance. And the Lions are still, get this, plus 750 as Super Bowl contenders without Aiden Hutchinson. And I would definitively say I'm all in still. There's no reason in the world as to why this team doesn't have a chance. Good point in there. Trey says we rallied back in 91 when Utley went down. We're doing it again now. We all saw it happen Sunday after Hutch went down. They played great defense when Hutch went down. I mean, they held it very well. I mean, they still didn't score. Now, the game was far from close at that point. And I'm sure a lot of Cowboys players checked out of the game. There probably wasn't enough time to really come back anyway, but that defense still played great in the game when Hutch left. Now, Dan Orlovsky said that Hutchinson's loss is Super Bowl impactful, no question. Here's what he said. The best team in the NFC lost arguably their best player. This is like if the Chiefs lost defensive lineman Chris Jones. We're talking about a defensive player of the year candidate. Not only that, but a guy who has absolutely changed the complexity of this organization. And no question, they feel they can win the Super Bowl with him. I hope and pray he gets better. He's one of the stars in the league. I'm not going to downplay the impact of Aiden Hutchinson. I think that would be foolish for anybody to think that this isn't a big loss. But I'm also going to have the opinion here that there's other ways to win. There's other players on this team. He is one of 25. And I say 25 because it takes 25 guys to field a full team. All the way down from the punter, the kicker, the snapper, and 22 starters, 11 on O and 11 on D. That's 25 players. He's one of 25. There's still 44 guys behind him, behind that starting cast that are part of this team. They will rally around Aiden. They will find a way. And it's going to start up front. It's going to start up front with Lee McNeil. It's going to start up front with DJ Reader. And the guys in the backfield that just had their best defensive game as DBs, they're the ones that are going to have to stand up. They're the ones that are going to have to shut down the opposing offensive pass attack that we're going to see this Sunday versus the Vikings. You know, the one thing that I think that we have going for us this Sunday, and I'm not going to get too far into talking about the Vikings today. As a matter of fact, we've only got about 9 minutes left. Sam Darnold doesn't move. The guy is a statue in the pocket. We don't have to worry about containing Sam Darnold. Stop the run, get after the passer, and use unique defensive schemes. Disguise what you're doing send in a blitzer. Just one guy. Shut down the run, send in a blitzer. Shut down the run, send in a blitzer. That's how you beat the Vikings this weekend. And I'm going to stick to that when I get into breaking down the Vikings. And I'll explain what I mean starting tomorrow morning. We'll probably do a 3-day special. Let me check my messages here. Let's see if we got a crossover pod happening. I didn't see a message come in yesterday, so if they sent it to me, I apologize. I didn't see it. But I was trying to get a really good guest on. Nothing yet. We'll see. We'll see if it happens. So to read through the rest of this article, Ian Rappaport said that Hutchinson should be fined for 2025 based on the initial diagnosis, which is good news. You know, when I was initially talking about this, we thought that he would, you know, potentially be out for about 9 months. And even according to Dan Campbell, you know, 4 to 6 months, and then you've got to rehab, you know, a little bit more, you know, between that time. But even after that time, it's going to take a minute for Aiden to probably feel comfortable again. And I hope that he comes back ready to go, you know, and feels comfortable that the bone's healed and that he can put the same pressure on it. That's going to take time. I think that is the ghost that you're chasing, you know, when you come back from a major injury like this. It's always going to be there. And he's going to lose a lot of muscle during this time. A lot. His leg is probably going to be about half the size of what it was. That is what's going to impact him the most, is rebuilding all of those years worth of muscle. Now, Ian said, first and foremost, nothing is more important than Aiden Hutchinson's health and his well-being. If it takes time, it takes time. This is no doubt one of the worst moments of his life. As for now, Detroit will replace him. You simply can't. This is a potential Defensive Player of the Year candidate. It's crushing for all involved here. And that's a good statement right there, too, that if it takes time, it takes time. I'm in no rush to get Aiden back. I'm really not. I mean, I'd love to see him back next year, and I'm sure we will at some point. But I would much rather see him 1,000%, not 80, not 85, not 90, 1,000% ready to go. I would hate to see the Lions take a risk here. And I would hate for Aiden, you know, understanding the type of player he is and type of leader he is, he's going to want to come back quickly. And again, I would just say, take your time, dude. The game isn't going anywhere. And you only get one chance at this in your life. You better make this second opportunity the best chance ever by doing it right. Just make sure you're ready to go. I don't want to see him come back in and get hurt again, because then he's probably done. And wouldn't that be a story? All right, to end the day here, I want to talk about Levi Onwuzurike for a moment. This was a bit of a shocker, but Levi Onwuzurike is being targeted. The Pittsburgh Steelers are apparently on the hunt for Levi Onwuzurike. Now, they have enjoyed Cameron Hayward in the middle of their defense since 2011, and the team recently inked him to an extension that should lead him to finishing his career in Pittsburgh. But at the age of 35, there's no telling when Hayward might start to decline. Some thought that was last season, but Hayward has been excellent through 6 games in 2024. Now, Bleacher Report's scouting department believes that the Steelers need to start planning ahead for Hayward's eventual decline. And they could start, or they could use, another option entirely to go along with Hayward. With that, the Detroit Lions defensive lineman Levi Onwuzurike has popped up in conversation that the Steelers are going to target him in 2025's free agency period. That's a very interesting statement to me. Here's what they said. One day, Cam Hayward is finally going to show his age. The 35-year-old continues to play at a high level, but Father Time is undefeated. The Steelers are also pinning a lot on Larry Ogunjobi in the interior as well. With Leal most likely out for the season with a neck injury, and the future picture for the defensive interior is somewhat dim, Levi Onwuzurike would provide a boost. It has taken him a while to break through in Detroit, but he has earned an important role this season. He'll look to cash in during free agency. It would be a good balance of talent and youth in the Steelers system. Okay. I'm going to throw out a caution. I'm going to throw out a pro and a con here, whatever you want to call it. Here's what I got. Levi is just now getting back to playing football. Just now getting back to playing football. If Levi is going to try to cash in free agency, which, let's be honest here, he's probably going to try. He's probably going to field offers. His agent is probably going to field offers because Levi really hasn't played much during his career. He doesn't have anything to bank off of other than this season. And if he continues to play at the level that he's playing at right now, sure, his value is going to go up, but there's always the risk. It's a high risk, high reward type of move here. If the Lions inked him to a fairly expensive deal and he shows up in 2025 and he injures his back again, huge risk. You just lost. You gambled and you lost. But said the other way, if he doesn't get injured again, this is a guy that you want on your team. And I hate to say it, especially during the season, but if Levi Onwuzurike hits free agency and the Lions don't try to do some sort of a short window extension right now, just to get him through another season at a low cap rate, you're going to have to let him test the market. And you're going to have to see what other teams are willing to give him. And you're probably going to lose him. Because I can guarantee you this, knowing what the Lions have gone through with Levi O to this point, they're probably going to swallow that hard pill that says, there's too much risk here. We've seen it. We've gone through it. But we love this dude. He's worked his ass off to get back to playing football where he could have given up like most everybody else probably would have. And he's playing at a high level. He's a great character dude. He's a hard worker. And that's the moment that defines Levi O's career, is his next contract. Is it going to be with the Detroit Lions or is it going to be with somebody else? A lot of teams are going to come gunning for us in free agency. Every single player that we have right now that has an expiring contract, they're going to get bigger offers than they would have had the Lions not been this good. Now, we still have 3/4 of a season in front of us, right? So there's a lot of football that's left to be played. It can go one of two ways, good or bad. But I think players like Levi O, you have to be willing to walk away from, which sucks because, again, if you're going to stick to Brad's mentality here, they're not going to overpay, but they will pay to keep the players that they want. But Brad has never overpaid. He didn't overpay for Penei. He didn't overpay for Amon-Ra. Maybe. He didn't overpay for Jared Goff. Clearly. I mean, other quarterbacks after the fact got bigger deals. And Jared Goff is, again, better than all those other quarterbacks. They got bigger deals. So that was my statement to end the day here, is that, Levi is up next. Lion Blinds Blood 89 said Levi might give a hometown discount because we didn't give up on him at his lowest. That is a great statement. But man, this is also a business. And I would be honest, or I wouldn't be honest if I said, if I was in Levi's shoes, that I wouldn't probably go for the highest bidder with the most guarantee because of my history, I would want to cash in. And that's just me, because I got to think about my family first, right? You've got to think about your future after football. And if you get an opportunity to go sign a 3-year deal for 25 or 25, a 3-year deal at, $60 million a year, why wouldn't you? Or even 55 million or 50. Of course you would. And I'm not saying he's worth that kind of money. I'm just saying he's probably going to get a pretty sizable offer from somebody else. And you've got to take it, because you have a life to live too. And it's not easy living with a back injury. He's going to find out after football. Well, I'm sure he knows every day, but it's not easy. It's not easy. All right. It has been it's been another edition of the Rise and Grind Morning Show. I didn't even get to half the things I wanted to talk about today. I didn't get to the PFF review. I would say let's go a third hour, but I just can't today. But at the end of the day, is the Super Bowl hype over for the Detroit Lions? Absolutely not. It's time to dig in deeper. We're Lions. We've been here before. Let's change the story this time. We're not flipping the page on the season. It's time to press forward. Let's get it done. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.
Igniting the light through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. Our legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together